Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where people's opinions are divided. We have different perceptions of things that we want to see in the world. The China is based on a different political ideology than United States. That is the reason on the foundation for trade war. Because United States at first hoarded all the resources, and that is why it was once the richest and most powerful country in the world, and that is why China demands compensation in terms of having these resources in there. The context that was put forward by the questioner was that the Huawei is actually being banned, right, in China. The problem with that is because Huawei is banned in other countries, not China, right? Again, why that occurred is because the reason why it occurred is because Huawei was innovating on a 5G technology that could revolutionize the world, that could change the tips on the favor of United States when it has in the favor of China, when it has so far been on the side of United States, right? That is to mean we have now 4G technology in our mobile, right? The moment in time it shifts to 5G, that is so much more faster internet, everything coming to us in live time without any delays whatsoever. That is the moment in time it takes over technology, and that is why in the age of technological revolution, it takes controls over our lives. So that is to mean, this is a question, if US does not take a step against Huawei, it is to mean that US becomes forever behind in that technology. That is to mean China rises as a new superpower. That is why it's important check for this United States to impose bans on Huawei and things as such. As so far as whether or not this is going to lead to a world war, I think it is a very far-fetched claim, because these people have been in conflicts for a long time, and right now we have learned from the consequences of First and Second World War that the consequences can be devastating. In the age where nuclear power is something that all of these people already command, it's important that nobody goes to fight, because there is a concept of this potential power that the other person has. That is to mean, if I have the capacity to kill you and then end your existence, and that person has the same capacity to do so to me, I never enter into the fight with that particular person. That is why no, United States cannot afford a war with China. If it was in the age of stones and knives, where the outcomes could be decided on the basis of individual strength, that is not the case right now. India, China, United States, all of them have their own individual, super powerful individuals who have their intellectual superiority to destroy the entire nation or the world. That is why this does not go into a world war. But what this goes into is the result of this is actually what is going to lead to who is going to be the power of the world, right? This can shift power dynamics in the favor of either of these countries, but it cannot make it so that the world war comes to play, right? So that cannot happen because of a few reasons. Also, these things that the United States is doing, imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, imposing taxes on them, is also very relevant and important, because China has been practicing unfair trade practices in the world. It does not obey the rules of World Trade Organization. It does not obey several different rules that all other countries have to follow. That is why it is prospering on its own. It does not answer to United States, right? So that is problematic, because we are neighboring countries to China. Maybe we have we have ideas that China is a good country, but that is not the case in the global context. It has been China itself is a dictatorial regime or authoritarian regime, right? In which several people will be killed once they do not follow the government. Several people will be, so in that kind of system, the unfair trade practices that is follows in trade is going to affect the world. That is to mean other countries in the same spectrum cannot compete fairly when China is able to do a lot of things that they cannot do. Next thing that it does is because of its authoritarian approach, because it can manipulate people into doing whatever it can. It has cheap labor cost, right? That is not something that can occur in democracy, because people have labor union rights and things as such. People can revolt against the government, but China in on itself can actually do that to people. That is why it is able to achieve a certain reasonable degree of power over the Western world or the world in general. That is why it's unfair to the other people who are already there. That is why this trade war is justified from both ends. But the basic premise of this trade war is that it's as simple as this: China exports more than United States. That is why in the long run, if we impose bans on all of these goods, China is going to lose the trade war on the context. But again, this is irrelevant, because notice that Donald Trump does not stay forever, but Xi Jinping does. That is to mean Xi Jinping can go on ruling for forever because he can orchestrate the systems around him. But Donald Trump falls in few years if the voters want it to be. That is to mean this prolongation of trade war is beneficial to China in the long run, because it can for temporary time sabotage United States development and also prosper on its own, right? So again, this kind of metrics, this kind of tactics is not fair to both of these countries, because they are built on different contexts, right? But again, the end outcome will not be world war, because both of these countries also know the consequences. That is why it's very less relevant in the context. So thank you.